As the spread of COVID-19 decreases, so do protections for renters faced with eviction. But many of those renters can still get help thanks to state programs funded by federal relief money. To tell us about the programs and who's eligible is our guest from Metro Housing Boston, the managing director of financial assistance programs, Regine Crispin. Thank you very much for being with us, Regine.
Thank you for having me.
Regine, I want to ask you about the way things stand with these programs, because I guess one of the things people should keep in mind is that there seems to be a new increase in money from Washington. So how does that help?
Absolutely. The increase in the funding itself is helping families that if they needed $10,000 or they needed more than $10,000, they're able to access as much funding as possible to a certain limit to be able to cover arrears, utility assistance, and also maybe arrears from during that time of COVID.
But when people apply, I know there are some of these programs that have requirements that connect with the pandemic. You need to maybe show that your financial problems have some connection with the pandemic. What does that mean for people? Does that mean a lot of documentation of some kind?
It doesn't mean a lot of documentation. What we're looking for is that the information is clear on the application. For example, someone's income may not have increased, but it have decreased because now they're paying for food or they're paying for childcare. So anything that's connected to that financial hardship should be clear on that application. So we're asking families to be able to explain that right on the application directly.
I want to see if you can maybe walk us through some of the different programs, because you did mention one that could offer up to $10,000. Tell me a little bit about that program and how it works.
Sure. So when the family is applying, they're applying for one application, and the organization, Metro Housing Boston, is going to determine if it's the RAFT standard or if it's the emergency rental assistance program. So we have several programs, but it's one application. So the family does not have to worry about which location or which funding source they're eligible for. Our organization is determining at what point they would be eligible for funding. So they can receive up to 15 months, up to 18 months of funding. We're also able to provide stipends for those who are eligible for the program. But the first step is to apply on our website and put in as much information as possible so we know what is that financial hardship.
I know life has come a lot closer to normal after we went through during the pandemic, but there are some places where the return to normal is taking a lot more time. Maybe people lost jobs before and they're still waiting for things to turn around. So would those people still be eligible for some kind of relief as being connected with the pandemic?
Yes, they will. Thank you for bringing that up. So they will be eligible for something related to the pandemic. Regardless of the emergency state of emergency lifting, we are still in a pandemic. So if there's arrears from March, from January, from prior, we want to be able to make that assessment and see how our organization can assist. And if it's not our organization, we'll also work with other organizations around the state that are also administering this funding as well.
Well, where renters have trouble paying the rent, oftentimes you have property owners who have difficulties paying the mortgage. And do you have some way of helping them as well?
Yes, we do. So we are helping homeowners that are facing mortgage arrears or foreclosure. So they are able to apply for this funding up to $10,000. And we also have an application that can work with property owners who may be trying to apply on behalf of their tenant themselves. So there's several different options, but we want to focus our options on renters and also homeowners that are looking to apply for this particular program.
What about people who might get some resistance from property owners? You might have a lot of relief money you can put into that situation, but at the same time, you might have property owners who were thinking, oh, this is going to take a long time. I don't want to be bothered. I would rather this person just move out. What's your advice to renters faced with that kind of dilemma?
We would definitely would want them to connect to legal services if they're experiencing that. We're also working closely with our mediation services if something like that were to happen. We want them to apply. So we want our applicants to apply. That's the first step. Apply to if there's arrears, if there's some challenges with paying your utilities to apply. And then from there, we can determine how we can assist as well.
Well, when people come to this program, they must be very distraught. And they might be getting letters from property owners saying, I want you out of here in a few weeks or even sooner. Um, what's your advice about people who are they're almost panicking? What should they do?
They should not leave unless it is an actual eviction notice that is going through the housing court. We also have case managers that are working in the court systems actively right now who are working to be sure that anyone who does face a court eviction that they are aware of their rights and not to leave their place. And the other piece that we're working with is also working with attorneys to work with us to be sure that families are aware of their rights as well.
Well, one thing that's happened in the course of the transition is that even some of these relief programs have been changed in some ways. I'm thinking especially of the rental assistance for families in transition. Um, can you tell me a little bit about making the changes so that these programs are more effective?
So I do see the changes being made. There's less paperwork, less documentation that is requested. The documents, just to be upfront, that we're requesting is a copy of the photo ID, proof of what the concern is, and even asking less documentation for income. So I do see those changes being made right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the new fiscal year will affect how those changes will be moving forward.
What about families whose first language is not English? Even if it is English, it's hard enough to fill out a document, but if they need help with language, is there some way they can get that and still take advantage of these programs?
Yes, so we do have our applications currently right now in English and Spanish on our website, and we also have it in 6 other languages. We also partner with service providers and advocates and property owners that also have access to be able to assist with that. We have case managers that are going to be available so that if someone is in need of filling the application or there's a language barrier there, they'll be able to assist in that capacity as well.
No, I know you have different programs and they all have different timelines, but how quick can these be turned around in the best of circumstances, of course?
Yes, so we have received a high volume of applications. Right now, we're looking at processing applications within 4 weeks. Those type of applications, we've been actually raising our capacity with our staffing and have hired an additional staff to be able to handle that capacity. So when someone applies, there's someone that reaches out, says that they've received the application, and they will work with them within those couple weeks to be able to finalize and process everything. In the same process, we're also reaching out to the property owner at the same time to inform them that the applicant has applied. So there's full communication being made across the board.
We should finally mention, Regine, that if people want some more information about this program, is there some place where they can find that, at least online?
Yes, I don't have the information right now, but yes, they will be able to apply on our website, metrohousingboston.org. And they'll also be able to go to a main website through the state portal to be able to determine what location and what organization will be able to assist in case of the person's outside of Boston or outside of the communities that we cover.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to explain this. It's very important.
Thank you so much. Have a nice
Regine
day.
Crispin from Metro Housing Boston. Thank you very much for being with us. We'll have more news in just a moment.